the situation that we've seen over the past year, except in some very limited circumstances. There have been a few reports here and there of Hamas commandeering convoys, in most cases returned quickly to the humanitarian organizations. It has not been, there's not been any widespread evidence that we have seen of Hamas actually taking convoys and commandeering them, which is, I think, the scenario, or the proposition of this scenario presumes. So the strikes that Israel has conducted on humanitarian convoys have been times when they have had failures in their deconfliction processes, where they have had intelligence failures, and when they've just made basic mistakes. And the thing that we have made clear about those is that those mistakes are unacceptable, and that humanitarian workers need to be protected, and humanitarian aid needs to be protected. So the idea that anyone in this department signed off on bombing humanitarian convoys is just absolutely ridiculous.
My final one, the president today issued a statement. I mean, he talks about, the anniversary. He talks about, 1,200 Jews were killed, which is the highest number since the Holocaust and so on. But he did not mention the genocide that the Palestinians are subject to. He did not mention the fact that 42,000 people were killed. In fact, a group of American doctors are saying 119,000 have been killed. Is that negligence on his part, or is he not showing the kind of sensitivity that he ought to show?
So, Saeed, he didn't use
empathy.
He didn't use the terms that you use because we don't agree with those terms. But if you look at the president's statement, if you look at the statement from the vice president, if you look at the statement from the secretary, every one of them made clear that the consequences of this war for the Palestinian people have been catastrophic, and that's why we're ultimately working to end the war.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, the UNIFIL, the United Nations in Lebanon, put out a statement on Friday, I think. They said they are deeply concerned that by recent activities by the IDF immediately operating from a close position around them. Did you see that statement?
We did see the statement.
Do you have any comment?
I don't. Obviously, we don't want to see UNIFIL forces put in danger in any way. UNIFIL forces play an important role in establishing security in Lebanon, and ultimately we want to see them able to do their job implementing UN Security Council Resolution 1701.
Do you still see what's happening in South Lebanon, a limited operation?
We do. I'm sorry, it was when you were out of my answer to this question earlier, yes. At the time, and that is an assessment made today, and we will make our assessments on an ongoing basis, and if and when they change, we'll have a different assessment to offer.
Okay, you have confirmed several times that you are in contact with the Lebanese and you are working behind the scene. But the Prime Minister yesterday, he had an interview and he said not the U.S. officials reached out to them since he saw Amos Hochstein in New York before the assassination of Hezbollah Secretary General. Today even there was a statement by a bloc of opposition asking for the implementation of the resolution 1701, even 1559, and also some of them went far, not from the opposition. One of the Druze leader, Walid Jumblat, he asked to go back to the 1949 truce with Israel. But there's no U.S. engagement. It's like you are giving the Israeli time to finish the military operation. Why you are not engaging? And if you are engaging, who is engaging with them from this department or from the White House? What are you doing?
So we have had ongoing diplomatic engagements with Lebanese leaders. I can't give you the who and the time here, but we have had it going on for some time. And I should say, just as importantly, we have had a number of diplomatic contacts over the weekend, some of which I mentioned earlier, and going back all through last week with partners in the region who are engaged with the Lebanese government. But I should make very clear, the solution to the political crisis inside Lebanon is not one that can be or should be dictated by the United States. Those are decisions that Lebanon has to make. And look, we have made clear for some time we want to see the Lebanese parliament elect a new president. We want to see the Lebanese government break the deadlock that Hezbollah has imposed on it. But these are not the kind of these are not the kind of solutions that the United States can come in from the outside and impose.
But the Iranian foreign minister visited there, and 2 days ago, in Lebanon, the situation, it is not a domestic situation. It's a regional situation.
Of course.
Yeah, so
Of course,
that's
and
why
we have been engaged both, I said both with Lebanese actors and with actors in the region, making clear the importance of the ultimate implementation of 1701, making clear the importance of Lebanon breaking the deadlock that has existed that has prevented them from electing a president. But at least with respect to that last one, that is a question that Lebanon has to work through. We can offer our support, we can offer assistance, but those are decisions for the Lebanese to make for themselves. Michelle.
Yeah, thank you. I have several questions too. You said earlier that we are in early days of this conflict. How long do you expect it to last?
I don't have any assessments to offer. Obviously, we ultimately want to see a diplomatic resolution.
Second, are you planning to keep asking the Israelis to keep the airport open?
We think it's very important that not only the airport be open, but that the roads to the airport be open so that American citizens who want to leave that can get out, but also citizens of other countries who want to leave, be able to leave, can get out. So yes, we want to see the airport stay open and we want to see the roads to the airport be open.
And in your readout regarding the call between the Secretary and the Saudi Foreign Minister, you said that they discussed ongoing efforts to fund and support the Lebanese armed forces and the importance of international support for UNIFIL. Are there any specific steps that you are considering?
Nothing that I'm ready to announce today, but when I referred to ongoing diplomatic conversations in response to Hibba's question, that conversation with the Saudi foreign minister about a way forward is very much the type of engagements we've been engaged in the last.
And lastly, do you have any information regarding the IRGC Quds Force commander, Kaani?
I don't. I've seen the reports of his possible demise as well as reports that conflict that information. We don't have any independent information of our own to offer.
Thank you.
Alex, and then we'll go
to sum up your line of questions with Humaira Said and others. Going back to last year, both the President and Secretary advised Israel not to make a mistake of 9/11, so our response to 9/11. Is it your assessment that this is in fact what Israel has been doing past year?
Certainly they have made a number of mistakes along the way. There are a number of things that we think that they could have done differently and that they should have done differently, and we've offered advice to them at times, but ultimately they are a sovereign country that has to make its own decisions.
Thank you. On Iran and its proxies, you made clear last week that Iran had not notified you prior to its latest attack. Now it happens, there are reports that it did notify Russia prior to it. Any concern on your end in terms of involvement of Iran's friends, allies into this war in Russia, China, given their collaboration in other fronts in Ukraine?
So certainly we see the deepening ties between Iran and Russia as something that's incredibly destabilizing for the region. It's incredibly destabilizing for the world. And that applies to the Middle East. It applies to everywhere that Iran and Russia operate.
On that line, there are reports that Victor Bout, who was released last year as part of the hostage deal, is back in business and is apparently a part of an armed deal, potential armed deal with Houthis. Any reaction from the state?
Yeah, look, so as we made clear when that arrangement was announced, and as we made clear at other times when we've made arrangements to bring American citizens home, these are always very difficult decisions with trade-offs involved. And we have to make the tough decisions to bring American citizens home. And what we have decided time and again is that we're willing to make those decisions because the safety and security of the American people is our first priority. And that's how we've gotten more than 50 wrongfully detained and other Americans return home over the course of this administration. It's because we are willing to make those choices. And I think when you look at the Americans that we have brought home versus the people in Russia's case that they have been able to get home, it says something about the type of individuals that our societies value. Now, when it comes to Victor Bout specifically, there are any number of actors that Russia has engaged over years, not just Victor Bout, but others, to engage in destabilizing behavior, including making arms available. There has been no shortage of people, both inside the government and outside the government in Russia, willing to fulfill that role. And what we do is monitor those very closely, take steps to counteract them, and ultimately take actions to hold Russia accountable.
I have two more in Ukraine and Georgia if you have time. Come back to them later.
So are you doing anything in this case?
I don't have anything to
Do you
announce.
even know if it's true?
So I don't have anything to announce today, but I'll tell you that we watch these things very closely, and you've seen us impose any number of sanctions on Russian individuals for engaging in this type of behavior.
Yeah, a lot of them, but you don't know
And-
if this specific report is true, that he's now trying to do.
I don't
drum
have
up
anything
business
to.
with the-
I don't have anything to.
Okay,
to speak to.
and then in response to Michelle's question, you said you want the airport in Beirut to stay open and you want access to the airports. Does that mean that you have complained to the Israelis about this apparent bombing of the road, one of the roads to the airport?
We have made clear to them that we want to see those roads continue to be operational.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So did you say that, hey, you shouldn't have done that?
I'm not going to speak to that strike. But we may have made
Well,
clear to them,
why not?
just going back before that specific strike, we have made clear that we want to see those roads to the airport open so American
And
citizens and
how
others can get
effective
out.
do you think that was?
So we have seen
I mean,
900
I just saw pictures of the road in flames.
and we saw around 150 American citizens able to get to the airport
Yeah,
today and able
yeah.
to leave,
But
and we
you
have
said
other
that
flights
it
that are
was-
planned. Look, it is an ongoing
All right.
situation, but we want to see the roads open.
Last thing, and I'll stop. In response to, I think it was Hibba's question about UNIFIL. So what is it that you want UNIFIL to do? Nothing? Just stand there and watch?
So we want to ultimately see UNIFIL fulfill its security role. The question about what they do in the immediate days is a question for UNIFIL to make, not the United States. But we want to see them we want to see them not be put in harm's
Sure.
way.
Yeah, but they're a peacekeeping force.
Correct. They're a peacekeeping force there to push Hezbollah
so
back
look,
from the border.
peacekeeping forces don't go into places like,
Yeah.
they don't go into resort communities and
Correct.
expect there to be nothing except for, beach and cocktails.
We don't
So
want to see them attacked by
Well,
Israel.
no,
We don't
I'm
want to
sure
see
you
them
don't.
return
But-
fire by Israel. We do not want to see
But if
any
they're
kind of
not
conflict.
but if they're not preventing anything from happening, I mean, I guess, do you want them to keep the peace, or do you want them just to sit there and watch? and
Ultimately, we
observe?
want to see their role as one that prevents Hezbollah from occupying the space in southern Lebanon that Hezbollah has continued to occupy for years and from where they have launched attacks against Israel. That's what they were put in there to do.
Right.
And that's the role that we want to see them play. What's happening right now is Israel is conducting operations to push Hezbollah back.
Yeah.
We hope those operations are successful.
So
And if they, let me say,
UNIFIL
and
so
if
you
they
don't-
do
you-
push them back, we want UNIFIL and the LAF to,
So- so you-
fill that security
So
vacuum.
you don't see UNIFIL as having any role in terms of Israelis going into Lebanon?
Their role is there to
going
keep
up to-
Hezbollah back. Now, for a variety of reasons, UNIFIL and the LAF have not been able.
Peacekeeping involves, you're keeping the peace not
I'm
between
aware,
one side.
but for a variety of reasons, UNIFIL and LAF have not been able to prevent Hezbollah from sitting in those areas just over the border from Israel and launching rocket strikes and other attacks against Israel. So Israel is taking steps.
Okay,
At
but
the
see-
end of that, we want to see UNIFIL play
But
that
see,
role.
this isn't an anti-Israel question, and I'm not suggesting that UNIFIL should be taking action against Israel, but they haven't been able to do it. So why do you think they're going to be effective now? In terms of Hezbollah.
So I'm not going to make any predictions about what will happen. What we have seen is Hezbollah's forces degraded. I can't tell you if it's going to be degraded enough. That
Not
they're
by
willing-
UNIFIL.
No, I know, but
And they
I
haven't
know.
been pushed back
Hold
by
on. I'm
UNIFIL.
talking about what's happened by the last 10 days. I can't tell you whether they're going to have been degraded enough that UNIFIL is strong enough to come in and fill that security vacuum. But that is the open question that is being presented by the current operations in southern Lebanon.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, Nick, but
No, go
on
ahead.
1701.
Sorry, I'm only going to go
Okay.
behind you just because we're 40
On
minutes in. I've got a lot of other
1701.
people to get to.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So in his statement on the anniversary of October 7 today, Secretary Blinken specifically mentioned the names of Americans killed by Hamas, but he did not mention Americans who were killed by Israel since October 7, like Tevfik Ajak, Ayşenur Ezgi Egi. Why were these Americans not mentioned in the statement? And is that, does that indicate a different
No.
standard for Americans based on who killed them?
Absolutely not. And if you've seen this, our public statements, we have spoken out forcibly about American citizens who have been killed today, or have been killed on both sides of this conflict. The statement the secretary put out today, though, was about the anniversary of October 7th.
But it also-
and the people that died in the attacks on October 7th, and the American citizens who were taken hostage on the deaths on October 7th. You have seen us on other occasions speak out, and we will continue to speak out forcefully about other American citizens who die anywhere across the world. But the statement today was about October 7th, and in no way is a statement about the anniversary of October 7th going to cover the entire sweep of this conflict. But we thought it was important to, on this anniversary of the horrific attacks, to memorialize the people who were killed as part of those attacks.
And do you have any update on the investigation into the killing of Ayşe Nur?
It continues to be underway. I don't have any further update. Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. Last week, Iranian-backed groups in Iraq attacked Golan Heights. They killed 2 IDF members and injured 2 dozens. These attacks and the other attacks have brought Iraq to the brink of this conflict. Have you ever talked to the Iraqi government about these militia groups to stop attacking Israel and making these destabilized actions, and why the Iraqi government so far couldn't rein these groups?
So you should address questions for the Iraqi government to the Iraqi government. I will say that, of course, we continue to be concerned about the presence of Iran-backed militias inside Iraq. They continue to destabilize Iraq's security situation. They continue to risk Iraq being dragged into a conflict that the Iraqi people want nothing to do with. That's why we've designated these organizations as terrorist organizations, just as we have other Iranian sponsored militia groups, such as Hezbollah, such as Hamas. And we continue to talk with the Iraqi government about the importance of preventing attacks from within Iraq's borders, preventing attacks on U.S. personnel, U.S. interests inside Iraq, and the importance of holding people accountable.
So far, Israel has not responded to these groups inside Iraq, but it may one day. So have you ever requested Israeli or advised Israel to not attack these groups inside Iraq in order to prevent the war not spill over to Iraq and shield the Iraqi territory from that war?
So I'm not going to get into private diplomatic discussions, but we have said before that Iraq deserves the chance to move beyond decades of conflict, and it's why the presence of these Iranian-backed groups inside Iraq are so troubling, because they ultimately destabilize Iraq and they destabilize the region.
Thank you.
Yeah, Gita.
I'm going to go back to your conversation about U.S. talking to Israel about its retaliation against Iran's attack. Have you tried, has it even tried to dissuade Israel from retaliating?
We have had a number of conversations with them. You've heard us say before, they have a right to respond. This is an attack of 200 ballistic missiles that Iran launched on Israel. And of course, they have a right to respond to a state-on-state attack like that. I'm not going to get into the nature of those conversations. You heard the president speak publicly them, but the conversations are ongoing, and I'm not going to characterize them further.
Thank you so much. In Bangladesh, this is Durga Puja time, you know. The Hindu community is preparing to celebrate their largest festival, Durga Puja, amid multiple security concerns in Bangladesh. Meanwhile, neighboring country India has also placed message to Bangladesh government for ensuring peaceful religious event for the Hindu community in Bangladesh. In this given scenario, do the U.S. government place any communication with Bangladeshi authority to protect the rights of minorities?
So of course we want to see the rights of minorities protected in Bangladesh, as is true all around the world.
And then what specific measure will the U.S. take in response to the urgent call from French-based human rights organization and Human Rights Watch, JMBF, regarding the rising incident of mob violence and lynching in Bangladesh? And how will it ensure accountability for human rights violation in Bangladesh in light also of the growing concern surrounding the increasing number of legal cases being filed against innocent individuals, like such a person of Tawfiqur Rahman from Gopalganj, and hundreds of others. How does U.S. government view the protection of human rights in Bangladesh right now?
I can't speak to these individual cases that you mentioned, but I can tell you that the Secretary met with the Prime Minister of Bangladesh just 2 weeks ago at the UN General Assembly
Chief
in New York.
advisor you want to make?
What's that?
Chief advisor of Bangladesh. Right now, we do not have any prime minister.
Correct. Acting Prime Minister, I think his title is.
Yes.
And made clear that we want to see human rights protected, and that ultimately those responsible for violations of the human rights of the Bangladeshi people over the past few months need to be held accountable.
Thank you. Can I ask about China? Yeah, well,
Sure.
one last. The recently concluded Quad Summit has used strong language against Chinese aggressive dominance in the South China Sea. What can we expect to see in intense diplomacy to continue their aggression?
We will continue to work with our allies and partners in the region to advance our vision of a free, open, prosperous, and secure Indo-Pacific.
Thank you so
Kylie,
much.
do you have one? Then Mary, then we'll wrap.
Quickly.
Yeah.
With the Moscow court sentencing an American to 10 years in prison for allegedly fighting as a mercenary for Ukraine.